we're joined by Jeffrey Rowe, Senior Community Manager at DecisionLink.
How I got into community, gosh, it's been quite an adventure so far. My foray into community management began back in 2011.
Tell us a little bit more about CMX.
CMX is the world's largest network for community professionals. We're in over 60 countries at this point, and I was the host for the Austin, Texas chapter. I moved to Florida and really just had such a good time doing it in Austin that I wanted to get something started here for the Tampa Bay area.
And as someone who's been on both sides in terms of heading up social media and community manager, how quickly would you like to see organizations split that role into two separate roles?
There's social media management, but there's also social media community management, right? We have communities that live on social media platforms. You can absolutely be a social media community manager while not being a social media manager. I would definitely say that make sure that there's a shared purpose if you're gonna merge the two roles together.
Why don't you say hello, Jeffrey? Hello and welcome to the Digital Community Managers podcast, where we chat with community managers, champions and founders about their experience leading and supporting digital communities. My name's Pete Heslop and I lead the team here at Steadfast Collective, and we exist to craft digital applications that bring people together online. We've created the Digital Community Podcast to be a bite-sized look into what it takes to start, grow and scale digital communities. And today, we're joined by Jeffrey Rowe, Senior Community Manager at DecisionLink. Why don't you say hello, Jeffrey?
Hi, Pete. Thanks so much for having me.
No, thanks for being here. Why don't we jump straight in, and why don't you give us a little bit of background on how you got into community and what you're up to at DecisionLink?
Yeah, so how I got into community, gosh, it's been quite an adventure so far. My foray into community management began actually back in 2011. I was fresh out of college and I joined a company, an ed tech company in New York City. I'm originally from the New York, New Jersey area. I joined an ed tech company called 2U. 2U is an ed tech company that partners with some of the top tier universities in the country to help deliver their master's degree programs online. So I was the community manager for the Masters of Arts in Teaching at USC. A lot of that work meant, managing their alumni program, building relationships with current and prospective students. But on top of that, there was a bit of an inbound marketing component to the role. So in addition to doing things like managing the alumni program and building those relationships, I also spent a lot of time working with freelance writers and graphic designers to produce either blog or infographic content, of course, all centered around topics in the education space. And then once those content pieces would get published, I would then conduct outreach to see where I could get those content pieces syndicated for increased visibility. So really the name of the game for me at that time was organic link building and driving as much organic traffic either to the program site or to many sites that we created on behalf of the program. So that's kind of where I fell in love with community management. From there, I kind of went in the direction of social media management for a couple of years, worked for a snack food subscription service that you might be aware of. They started in the UK called Graze.
Yeah.
I was really focused on building up their presence in the US market during my time with them. So really was just a one-man team, making sure they had a clean and consistent presence on all of their social media channels. Did you happen to be a Graze customer at any point?
Yeah, I was a Graze customer and often would go past their office in London. So yeah, big Graze customer there. Honeycomb Flapjack was the one. I didn't know they expanded into the US. Are they still out there?
I don't think they are in the US anymore. I think they've rolled back their operation and are focused on the UK today. But yeah, that was a fun year or so of my career. After that, I joined the listener care team at SiriusXM. Was really involved in capturing the voice of the community in that role and communicating that to our internal stakeholders. But eventually ended up working at Khoros, where I was a senior community manager. Worked on the strategic services team there. Did that for about 3.5 years. During that time, started hosting events for CMX. Then joined Bright Cove in August of 2021. Helped them build and launch their first customer community, and sort of did the same thing at Decision Link. Joined them in October of last year,
Mm.
and yeah, got their customer community up and running in a few weeks, which was a pretty tight turnaround. But
Yeah.
we managed to get it done. So that kind of brings me to today.
Nice. So what does that community at Decision Link practically look like? Have you got a forum, a portal? Is it a newsletter? What have you got in place?
So we built our customer community on the HiveBright platform. So there are forums definitely where customers can go and have discussions. We also have groups that are meant for particular segments of our customer base, or like our product advisory council. Um, but yeah, it's I would say that the layout is pretty straightforward. We're really focused on establishing a space where our customers can come together, learn from each other,
Mm.
and hopefully grow their careers. So, in terms of the navigation and layout, it's pretty much laid out in that way. Um, but yeah, there's definitely Decision Link's platform. For anyone who isn't aware, it's a software platform that's built for salespeople who are working in tech sales, and the platform automates this methodology, this approach to sales that's referred to as customer value management. Basically, what's at the core of that methodology is that rather than, as a tech salesperson, rather than selling to your platform's features and functionality, really taking some time to do a little bit of digging into your prospects and figuring out
Mm.
what kind of business problems are they really focused on solving. And then, of course, connecting that to your platform to sort of reframe the conversation to say, rather than saying our platform can do this, that, and the other thing, is our platform can help deliver these business outcomes, and here's how.
Mm.
So yeah.
Nice. And you're working hand in hand with head of marketing as almost like are you, is it designed as in you're part of that team, or are you kind of your own sub team at Decision Link?
Yeah, the community team does roll up into the marketing team. So yes.
Nice. Cool. And tell us a little bit more about, for those who don't know, I'm sure most do, but tell us a little bit more about CMX and your involvement there.
Yeah, absolutely. So CMX is the world's largest network for community professionals. They're really all about providing training, resources, tools for community professionals to thrive in their careers.
Mm.
One of the resources that they offer is a program called CMX Connect, and it's
Mm.
a volunteer-led part of the organization that brings community professionals together for monthly meetups in different parts of the world. We're in over 60 countries at this point, I'm pretty sure. And I was the host for the Austin, Texas chapter of CMX Connect when I was working at Koros. I was living in
Mhm.
Austin. And then I moved to Florida in around the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, and really just had such a good time doing it in Austin that I wanted to get something started here for the Tampa Bay area. So I launched a new chapter here in September of last year, and we had our last event was the first one of the new year was in January for Community Manager Appreciation Day. So that went pretty well.
Nice. Fab. Well, we've got some questions for you, some burning questions, and as you've kind of started from scratch back in October or with Decision with Link, it'll be interesting to see if your perspective is different to what it would have been maybe a year ago. So we'll jump straight in.
Excellent.
But for those who are brands, organizations, or kind of already established communities, what would be your number one tip for growth, for growing membership?
It's a good question. I probably would say that if you're focused on growth, make sure that you're focused on growth for the right reasons.
Mm,
Don't be focused on growth simply for growth's sake. I think
mm,
that a lot of communities and or people who are on the periphery of community teams tend to fall into this trap of growth is the only vanity metric we should be focused on, and that growth is the only sign that our community is doing well, and that's not necessarily the case. So if you are focused on growth, I would definitely say that your approach to that growth should start with making sure that your community is fulfilling its purpose. And
Mm,
that purpose, of course, should be tied to an overarching business objective and business priority. So, the way that you pivot to focus on growth is by making sure that your community is doing what it's supposed to do and that it's doing it well.
mm,
A lot of that involves curating an experience that your community members feel motivated to return back to, and they feel like there's some sort of value that they're getting out of it. So make sure that your
mm,
community is providing that value for the members that it already has, and in that way, you're able to affect growth through word of mouth. If there you have customers, if you're a customer community,
mm.
and your customers are satisfied with the experience that's being provided to them, then they're gonna spread the word. So they'll do a little bit of that work for you, um, and a lot of curating that really thorough, well-rounded experience for your current members involves getting to know them and finding out what it is they're seeking out from community. What are some of the challenges and pain points that they're facing in their day-to-day roles? How
Mm,
can your community help alleviate some of that?
mm,
And if you're going to go and dive right into growth and start focusing on courting new members, you should apply that same methodology, right? You should
mm.
seek out to connect with prospective members face to face, get to know them, really figure out what makes them tick, what kind of things they're seeking out from community, what would be of value to them, and have that inform how you execute on your community going forward.
I like that. That reminded me of the analogy of a value bank. So, as either a kind of a content creator or a brand or an organization or membership, um, there's the concept where you need to be giving value regularly into somebody's imaginary bank, right? Because at some point you might
Mhm.
want to make a withdrawal, and that withdrawal might be sign up for the newsletter. It might be we'd love you
Right.
to beta test the new version of this product. But if you haven't put enough in the bank, it falls on dead ears. But if you've put so much goodwill and so much value into these people, when you do go to make a withdrawal, which is can be fairly sizable in terms of time and resource, hopefully that person,
Hmm.
has a relationship with you enough where you can go, actually, I am willing to be your beta tester for this because you've given me so much value. And that value bank is really important. And the amount of times you see people just jump straight in with the ask without doing the legwork first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I totally agree with that. There's not only an exchange, but that exchange has to be initiated with an upfront giving away of that value. You have to be
Hmm.
willing to part ways with that value for free, and then not only that, but continue to nurture that value as you're building out this relationship with your community members. So that way, when the day comes that you're ready to make that ask, it doesn't feel like an ask. It feels like an opportunity.
So you've kind of got stuff established, but maybe someone's approached you, another CM's approached you, and they go, look, Jeffrey, we're really struggling with engagement. People just aren't coming back. It's not sticky. People aren't getting stuck in as we thought they would do. What would be your kind of number one thing you'd be checking in how they're managing things in terms of trying to increase engagement?
I would say to take a break, take a pause for a moment, and double back to some of the discovery work that you might have done or that you hopefully did while you were getting to know your current members. Right? If you did a good job of having that one-to-one relationship and establishing a rapport with your members, then you might be able to hone in on, did we really execute on the things that they told us would be of value to them from this
Mm,
community? um, did we do it in the way that they wanted us to do it? How can we sort of reconcile the outcome to the input? So making sure that you really satisfied what the challenge or pain point you found out from your community members were, but also pay attention to the community members that you might not have been able to establish as close of a rapport with. I think one of the big conversations that community managers have as they think about their members is, a lot of folks call them lurkers. I don't really
Mm.
like calling them lurkers because that sounds a little bit creepy, but
Yep.
let's say consumers, right? Like folks who
Mm.
are in the community, maybe they're not proactively contributing or answering folks' questions, but they are logging into your community, they are browsing around, they are consuming content. Maybe reach out to those folks and double down on your efforts to establish that one-to-one relationship with them by saying, hey, I've seen you in the community, just wanted to check in, would really love to spend some time getting to know you better, and figuring out how we can make this community the most valuable place it can be for you. So
Mm.
definitely don't forget about your lurkers. Continue to focus your time on making their experience a pleasant one as well.
Yeah, no, that's really good. That's really good. I like that. And it's always interesting, isn't it, when you're trying to kind of visualize your member life cycle of people kind of becoming aware of you all the way through to kind of being, maybe your most active member, and trying to work out what their stepping stones are. It might be as simple as the platform you've chosen might make it slightly more difficult for first time posters. Maybe it's a little confusing, or it could be
Mhm.
as simple as just
Yep.
it just needs a really simple video, just encouraging people to get stuck in, and don't worry about spelling. Just get stuck in, whatever that barrier might be for that first time poster. Um, Especially if
Yeah.
you're working in like a community uh, membership where the person, their job isn't to be involved in communities, their job is literally to be a tradesperson or whatever that role is. They might not be
Mhm.
so au fait with being on their computer quite as much as maybe the other side of we are. So, no, that's some really good advice there.
Yeah, absolutely. Focusing on creating a frictionless experience should definitely be a focus for anyone curating a community experience. The other thing that I would say, probably for communities with a larger amount of members who might be engaging in curating ambassador programs for their community members, is
Mm,
or really any type of sort of activity or ritual that's taking place in their community, is to have some level of create design some level of exclusivity within the community,
mm,
to so that way you're enticing new folks to participate while also reinvigorating the enthusiasm of folks who have participated in the past. So, if we're thinking about something like an ambassador program, being able to join said program can only take place during certain times of the year. There are deadlines that need to be met, criteria that needs to be met. Having these checks and balances in place creates this formality to the program that it's okay. Oh, someone who's not already participating in it aspires to want to join and say, okay, I've got to make sure that I apply by this deadline, and that I'm meeting this set of criteria. And then once you've got new folks joining in on the program, folks who have been there already and who participated, but maybe some of that engagement has started to plateau, reinvigorates the old blood to come and
mm.
say, hey, I should get back into the game and start participating a little bit more. That's
That's good.
another good way to create a little bit of FOMO in your community, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really good. And as someone who's kind of been on both sides in terms of heading up social media and community manager, often in smaller communities, we see those two roles getting absolutely smushed together. Um, in
Hmm.
your experience, how how quickly would you like to see organizations split that role into two separate roles?
I would say for organizations that are merging them together, try to ensure that there's some sort of connectivity in what the two roles are achieving or working towards, if that makes
Mm,
sense. There are definitely synergies between community and social media, and I think the two absolutely need each other in order to make the most out of what the organization is investing in them. Um,
mm,
but they absolutely, to your point, aren't one and the same. A lot of times, if there are folks working in community that are also doing social media management, because there's social
Mm.
media management, but there's also social media community management, right? We have
Yeah.
communities that live on social media platforms, and there are pros and cons to that. But you can absolutely be a social media community manager,
Hmm.
um, while not being a social media manager,
Mm.
focusing on content and strategy into uh, content production and all of those things. So I would definitely say that make sure that there's a shared purpose if you're going to merge the two roles together.
Mm.
But if the two aren't synonymous in terms of what they're achieving for the business, then it might be best to keep them separate, but still have them collaborate.
Okay. Um, nice. Thank you for that. So, over the next 12 months, we've got most of the year laid out ahead of us. What do you see as your biggest challenges over the next 12 months in terms of continuing the trajectory that you and the team are on?
I would say over the next 12 months is really focused on retention. So
Mm.
making sure that the community experience is one that is helping our customers to make the most of the product, ensuring that the community is woven into every touch point, whether that be customer onboarding, whether that be in sort of in product notifications. That's one thing that's been a big focus as of late, and really helping our customer success teams to give them some time back, right, and help them to
Mm.
focus on larger or at-risk accounts, because we're heading into this continuing this economic climate that we're currently in, and like many other organizations, retention is a big focus right now. So I would say that
Yep.
making sure that the community experience is providing value to our support teams and to our customer success teams is the biggest focus.
And in terms of the community platform that you're on, how are you measuring that? Is that a case of number of times people are logging in? Is it as simple as kind of measuring that kind of churn rate? How are you measuring retention?
So we haven't landed on an exact metric or formula for it just yet, but we do have a framework for what it might look like. So we're
Mm.
currently in the process of assessing, well, how much is our cost of overhead for the support team? How much is cost of overhead for the community team? How can we put a number, assign a value to not only the dollar amount in terms of cost, but also a number in terms of how many support related inquiries are being answered through the community
Okay.
versus a support ticket being opened? And
Mm.
are we able to make a connection between the customer accounts who are asking questions in the community and those who normally open support tickets? Are we seeing that number go down?
Mm.
Um, in relation to the community and vice versa.
That's really interesting. Okay, fab.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about retention there in terms of being maybe one of the biggest challenges. What's one of the things that you're maybe most looking forward to, or what big have you coming up in the next 12 months?
I would say one of the things that I'm looking forward to is there being more of a closer relationship between community teams and customer success teams. I think we
Mm.
started to see some of that last year with Gainsight acquiring Insided. I'm looking forward to seeing that relationship evolve, because that sort of proves the use case for community within an organization for that particular part of an organization. Um,
Yeah.
so interested to see what comes after that. If we see that community and customer success can play together very well and that they complement each other in terms of unlocking the value of community, then let's
Mm.
begin to do that with other parts of organizations. Let's do it with product. Let's do it with marketing,
Yeah.
sales, support, all of that good stuff. Because I think we then begin to, it just proves the business case for community as a whole, and showing organizations that it can provide value everywhere.
Yeah, I agree like 100% in that not only can you obviously try and lighten the load on the support team, and you can do that, and you can build out the advocate programs to also help with sales and partnerships teams, but you've also got a wider thing here in that you are talking to the customers the most generally. So yeah,
Mhm.
being in the strategy meetings is important. Being in the we're about to drop a big bombshell of a price increase. Being in those meetings is important because you know the temperature of this is the wrong time to be doing it. We've just gone through this massive issue. It's the wrong time to be doing it. Can we wait a month? All of the community managers have their finger on the pulse to a point where the community manager is often not on, it's the wrong way of saying it, but almost on the side of the customer, in that they are the customer's champion inside the organization,
Mhm.
waving the flag for them, being that advocate.
Yeah.
So involving them in as many meetings as possible just means that they get to almost have a customer in those meetings. And it just brings tons of value, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The community manager is 100% the advocate for the customer. So much so to the extent where it's like if you're a part of those internal meetings and maybe you're having discussions around, who internally should be participating in the community, um, when you're talking about community specifically collaborating with sales, it's like, well, do we really want to have our account managers in the community? Is there a good reason for them to be
Mm.
there? And if there is a good reason, we want to make sure that that reason is not to sell to our community members, right?
Yeah.
Um, you don't want to make the community a place that is prone to an impersonal experience, or one where your community members are going to be marketed or sold to, because that's off-putting and that's not what your members are there for.
That is really exciting. It sounds like you've had quite the journey, and it sounds like you're on a really exciting trajectory of what you're doing at Decision Link, and going from strength to strength.
Yeah, like I said, the community management journey for me has been a wild ride. I'm still having a lot of fun. It's definitely a roller coaster over the past 12 months, but looking forward to the next 12 months is exciting. I'm ready for I'm ready to sort of delve into the abyss of the unknown at this point. But looking forward to what's coming next with the Tampa Bay chapter of CMX over here, building on top of some of the awareness that we've created coming off of the last quarter of last year and into this new year. So yeah, it's exciting times all around.
Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate your time. And if people want to kind of follow your journey, what you're up to, where's the best place to find you and obviously the organization?
Yeah, just search for me on LinkedIn. I'm Jeffrey Rowe. You just look for the guy with the backwards cap. That's kind of what I always say to folks. So yeah, looking forward to connecting with you, tuning in.
That's wonderful. Well, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for being a guest today.
Likewise, thanks so much for having me.
No worries. You are so welcome. And for those listening, you can catch us next time where we'll be chatting to another community hero, hearing their highs and lows and their top tips on how to make the most of your community. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.